Hey Brew Tubers, Barry here. So I guess I'll include this in this week's Homebrew Wednesday. I thought that my Krausen wasn't dropping, but it really was. And when I show you transferring the beer, I'll show you what I mean. But basically when I wanted to say, you know what? It's been 3 weeks. You know, big beers usually take 3 to 4 weeks, but I wanted to take a gravity sample. So when I opened up my carboy, I looked in. All the gunk that got stuck to the top of the better bottle in the first week or two of fermentation was going really vigorous, kind of fooled me because the Krausen had dropped completely. It was just a foam that was obscuring the top, so I thought the Krausen hadn't gone down, but really it had. So here's the sample, and what's puzzling me now is that after 3 weeks, or a little over 3 weeks, it's at 1034, down from 1090, which according to my calculator here on brewersfriend.com, it's at 7.35%, which is really not anywhere near where I wanted it to be. So I'm probably going to have to give it like another week or so in primary, because in secondary it's really not going to drop enough. So it might just end up being an English strong ale, not an actual barley wine, but we'll see what happens. Alright? So I'm going to switch camera batteries and then we'll give this sample a taste. Alright guys, as you see here, it's a really nice deep red color, almost like orangey red, like a dark copper basically, which is basically what I was going for. So let's get the aroma. Oh, it smells beautiful. Some like lighter fruits, some of the hops, not like caramel toffee, not like, maybe a little like grapefruit or sweet oranges, some alcohol esters for sure, but nothing that's not smelling too much. But overall, it's very fruity smelling. A really nice stone fruit, peach, cherry, date, really nice aroma. Not much malt character, but that'll probably come out with age. But for 3 weeks old and just coming out of the primary, it's really nice. So let's taste it. Cheers. So you can definitely taste the alcohol, definitely in the taste, but it does taste like a perfect English strong ale. You get those fruits up front, and then you get some really nice, like caramelly, bready malt, maybe a little toffee in the back. Oh, really nice beer. I wish it would have had a little less fruit and more complex malt character, but aging this on the bourbon soaked oak is just going to be perfect. So that's my update on the barley wine for now. And if I decide to upload this week or next week, I'll give you more updates on the barley wine. But for now, at just a day over the 3 week mark, it's tasting pretty darn nice. Alright? Cheers. Okay, so before taking my fermenter, my primary, out of my fermentation fridge, I'm going to prepare the secondary. So I've already sanitized, as you see here, the strainer, which I'm going to strain out the 3 ounces of chips that I've been soaking in bourbon for almost 4 weeks, a little longer than I would have hoped, with the strainer, and put them in the sanitized secondary, which is sitting down there, using a funnel. And then to sanitize this other ounce, which is a ½ ounce of American oak and ½ ounce of French oak, what I'm going to do is I'm first going to sanitize it with a little bit of sanitizer solution, and then I'll strain it out, and then in this thing I'll add about 3 ounces or 3½ ounces of fresh Knob Creek bourbon to further sanitize the chips, and then I'll dump that Knob Creek plus the new chips also into the carboy. So it'll be basically double sanitized, because from the alcohol in the Knob Creek and the acid in the star sand solution. So let's first, we need to first get the funnel out of the star sand, and we're gonna take it down and put it in there. And then open them up. The reason we're not using the actual bourbon that is in here is because it's probably has a lot of tannins in it, and you don't want that in your beer. So we're just gonna pour out this, and as you see, we have some stuff stuck in there. So I'll pour some of the soaking bourbon back in once we get the rest of the chips in. So let's swing the camera down here and get these chips into the Alright, so as you see here, we have the soaking bourbon. I ended up using it to sanitize the other ounce of chips. So I just have to add in the 3 ounces of actual bourbon and then shake it around to sanitize the chips just a little bit more. So as you see here, we have the blend of 4 ounces of chips on the bottom. It looks like a lot in this 4-gallon carboy, but the smell of those chips, the 3 ounces that were soaking, was so sweet and beautiful that I really don't think that, I think all the tannins were probably left behind in there because it smells really tanniny right now. So I first sanitized the extra 1 ounce of chips in star sand, and then strained them, and then poured the soaking bourbon over them a couple times. So now I'm gonna go ahead, measure out the 3 ounces or so of fresh bourbon and put it in. So here's the first 2 ounces of bourbon. And now this is, as you see, a 1/4 cup measure, so I'm just gonna fill it up again about halfway with the Knob Creek bourbon. Maybe that might be a touch over halfway, but it's good enough. Just to give it some fresh bourbon flavor and intensify the sweetness that I really liked in the first 3 ounces. And then I'm gonna re-sanitize this piece of tin foil that I was using to cover the top. And just shove it back on and just move that around a little bit at the bottom, and hope that we have enough space for beer. If I need a few bottles, then I will, but we'll go from there. So now I'm going to go ahead, take out the primary from my fermentation chamber, and then take my gravity sample before starting the transfer, because I already have, as you see, the siphon sanitized. So we're all ready for the transfer, but I wanted to just take a gravity sample first and see where we're at. Alright, so be right back. Alright guys, so rousing the yeast didn't really do much. It's still at 1034. Hopefully it'll go down a little bit in secondary. And I hope that it's not way too oaky from 4 ounces of chips with like a 7.5% beer. It's closer to 7.5%. So with the bourbon and everything, it'll be closer to 8 once I bottle condition it. But I was hoping it to be 9, but you know, this is only my second batch on the new equipment, so you know, it should be a pretty tasty beer. Still smells great, no infections by stirring the yeast. So next time I have a big beer, I might have to get like some champagne yeast or something, or another, you know, way of, you know, getting the yeast back into action if it stalls out like this. But you know, it might be just a yeast strain, because both times I've used this yeast strain, the Y yeast 1335, it stalled on me, so, or finished too high. So, 7.5 is still good. 8% is still good for an English strong ale or a barley wine, but, we'll see how the flavor is what counts most. So, I'll taste the samples after I transfer it. But, so let's get the siphon going. Alright, as you see here, I've got the siphon going, and it's transferring. I'm keeping the top covered and transferring my English strong ale / barley wine into secondary. As you see here, the liquid levels going down. So if I have extra, I'm going to stop once it fills up. If I have extra that I can still siphon off the tube, then I may bottle some, but we'll see about that. As you see, I have a lot of tape gunk to try to clean off from my primary, from all the cheap duct tape, but it's not inside, so whatever. Alright, I wanted to bottle some of that, but there's so much gunk there, and I tried to restart the siphon when I shouldn't have stopped it to begin with to try to bottle a bottle, but my capper, but whatever. I have a full 5 gallons here, so, and I shouldn't lose too much to the chips. It's not like hops where you lose a lot to the hops, so, because the chips were all pretty much saturated anyway, so they're not going to take up much beer. So I have a full 5 gallons here. It's only about 7.4% alcohol right now. I want it to be 9, but oh well, but it's still going to taste good, so that's what matters. So I'm going to have it in here for about a week to 10 days. I'll take a small taste, not a gravity sample, but a taste after a week, which is next Sunday, because I'm filming this on the next Monday, I'm filming this on Monday, and then we'll go from there, see if it needs a few more days. But at 7.4%, it's not going to take as long as like a 9 or 10 or 11% beer to absorb the bourbon flavor, because it's not as concentrated of a liquid. So, and I'm not worried about there being 4 ounces of chips in there, because number one, that's a standard amount for any oaked beer, any oaked home brew. And number two, because 3 out of 4 ounces were soaking for so long, I don't think much tannins are going to come from the wood in those chips anyway, as I said before. So, and plus I'm looking forward to seeing what the 2 types of oak do to the beer, because they really darkened that bourbon that they were soaking in. So I'm going to go ahead, get this into the fridge. I cut a new blow-off tube, that's the one and I cleaned out the bung from the primary. So I'm just going to reattach a new clean blow-off tube, a clean, jar with sanitizer, and get that all set up with the temperature probe, and I'll show you that when it's done. Okay guys, so as you see here, the top got a little shooken up. Obviously, as you reposition things, some CO2 bubbles come out of solution, but you see there's oak chips on, some of them are on top, some of them are probably in the middle. But I decided to use my larger mason jar instead of the milk jug as my sanitizer jar, my jar sanitizer for the blow-off tube. You see I have a brand new clean piece of blow-off tube and a cleaned out bung. Same configuration obviously. And I could have put it down there, but then there wouldn't have been enough air circulating around the fridge, especially at the bottom of the fermenter. So I'm just going to keep it like this for now. And yes, I'm going to close it up, let's close it up, turn the STC 1000 temperature controller back on, close it back up. Alright, so it's closed up as you see. Let me turn my STC 1000 back on. So right now it has a delay so that it doesn't break the compressor. So right now it's at 21.7 degrees, so that's about close to 71 degrees, around 71 degrees, so it's definitely not over room temperature, so the beer didn't warm up too much during the transfer. I kept everything sanitary, so we're good to go. So let's go in, wrap this up, and we'll go from there. Alright, happy Homebrew Wednesday, guys. I decided to start this week's Homebrew Wednesday with the transferring instead of having a whole long intro, and then going to all the business of transferring and then come back. So right now we're gonna take, before we crack into another beer, and just do a really quick wrap up. I don't have so much space left on my memory card. Let's take out the hydrometer, pour the sample into my stone glass once again, and give it a impressions. So it smells pretty much the same as it did the other day. Really nice fruitiness, like tangerine, a little bit of sherry, but not much sherry. It's hard to pick out the fruits. It's like a very stone, like peach, tangerine, a little bit of floral, a little bit of nice sweetness. It's like a sweet, juicy stone fruit. That's what I can describe it as. A nice, really nice medium to full mouthfeel. It definitely coats the mouth. It does taste pretty young for a barley wine. There's like a dry malt flavor in there, but the body is really nice. So at only about 7.5%, let's straighten out my camera. At only about 7.5%. These are beautiful body, a little bit of ABV, just like the barley wine should have. So in the end, it'll be about 8%, a little over 8% by the time it goes through secondary with the extra bourbon in it, and then bottle conditions. It'll be a perfect drinkable barley wine, and definitely high 7.5, 8 is definitely enough to age for 1 year, especially with so much flavor in there. So even though it's a 1 or 1.5% ABV lower than I expected to, it's still pretty amazing tasting. And as I mentioned earlier, during the transfer, the sweetness coming off the oak chips that were soaking for like 4 weeks was amazing. So that flavor plus the new oak plus this great flavor, which is not too sweet, it dried out really nice with the alcohol taste. It's just going to be quite a good beer once it's in the bottle for a month or two. So let's just crack into this other homebrew, because I do like enjoying other people's homebrews on Homebrew Wednesday. It's another one from Brew or Funky Farm Brewery. This is called an Outcast of the Islands. The 7.3% milk stout. So not much of a head, pretty flat actually. Really nice roasty, smoky chocolate flavor, aroma. Definitely a nice stout. A sweet, smoky, tobacco-y flavor. I mean, it'd be better obviously it was the bottle was better carbonated. There is some carbonation when I tip the bottle, but not much. Medium body. This was bottled really recently, actually. It was in December of 2013, so it might have needed a little longer outside the fridge to really fully carbonate, but for a stout, especially at 7.5%, you don't need so much carbonation. Anyway, to wrap up the barley wine, I'm really pleased with the flavor. I'm really pleased with the body. The ABV could be higher, but it actually drinks like it's higher, so there's just enough of an alcohol taste in there to really round things out. I'm really pleased with it, and I'm definitely going to brew it again, maybe with a different British yeast, but definitely with the same malt profile and just getting better efficiency. So, in the mash. So, happy Homebrew Wednesday. Filming this on a Monday just to make sure I get it done before I get busy this week. And happy Homebrew Wednesday. Once again, double fisting. And I'll see you next week. Cheers.